Hi, I'm Laura Mize, pediatric speech language pathologist, and welcome to teachmetotalk.com's therapy tip of the week. Are you like me? Do you have a love-hate relationship with light-up spinny toys, or with toys like Thomas, or with electronic toys that you can hear a child obsessively push the button and usually say something like a letter, a color, a shape, or a number? From the other room, all you hear is blue, 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 blue. Sometimes when children get stuck on these things, it's so problematic for us as therapists and certainly as parents, because we can't get them to move on. We can't get them to do other things because they are fixated or obsessed with whatever their little hot button toy happens to be. So when this happens with me, with the family that I'm working with in my practice as a pediatric speech language pathologist, I introduce an activity that I call Switcheroo with the family, and I try to give them 4 or 5 different options for helping a child learn to move on to a new activity, especially when it's become problematic, meaning that they're having a tantrum or a meltdown, and again, they are so emotionally upset that they can't move on. So parents need options for that. But before I give you those strategies, I want to talk to you about why a child is doing this, because as a therapist, we need to understand this so we're able to explain this to parents. First of all, they're usually doing it for some kind of benefit that they are getting from the toy or the activity that they're engaged in. And again, sometimes this isn't always a toy. Sometimes it's something like a door stopper, or they're maybe watching a ceiling fan and you can't really break their attention or pull their attention away. And as a therapist, you know that these are self-stimulatory behaviors, meaning that there's something internally, there's some kind of benefit that a child is getting from performing that action with a toy or with an object like watching the ceiling fan over and over and over. And so you need to explain that to parents. You can call them stems. A lot of times I just try to say that they're just kind of stuck, that they are doing that because there's something about that they really, really enjoy, or there's some benefit from them. Sometimes I'll say to a parent they're getting a buzz from doing that activity. And parents really, really understand that. So you need to explain again, that kids either do this to cope, they either have anxiety, and somehow this, and again, it's weird to think about a toddler having anxiety, but they do. That's why they cry. That's why they're dysregulated with a tantrum or a meltdown. So Thomas, or something, even something maybe that's like, maybe not even a toy, maybe it's like a drumstick or something that they just hold on to because they are seeking security or seeking stability for some reason. Some kids do hold on to a toy like that for even motor stability because their little bodies, again, are dysregulated, or maybe they have some muscle tone issues and they really like how it feels when they clench something in their little hands. Sometimes it's calming. We talked kind of about the security thing, and for whatever reason, that they are able to block out any incoming sensory input when they have their special little object in their hands. And sometimes, again, it's that whole exciting thing. They do get that little buzz from that because they get excited when they see the lights on Mickey and see the snowballs blow. And so we need to talk to parents about that, about why a child is doing that, and then talk about replacement. What are some other things that we can do to help a child move away from obsessively using whatever item has caused his little fixation? A lot of times it's because their play skills are really diminished, and a parent might say something like, well, my child doesn't like anything except Thomas, or like anything other than a spinny light toy. And that's because he hasn't had an opportunity to learn other things. He's been so stuck on holding his little object that it's become a ritual for him. And again, when we take that away and when we give him opportunities and we teach him and we help him learn how to play with toys, sometimes these little fixations seem to diminish or go away even without a lot of intervention. But for the most part, especially during therapy, when we want a kid to transition to another activity and we haven't realized just how powerful his little fixation is, we need some strategies. Or this happens in homes too. And so let me give you the things that have worked best for me. I always think about the principles of redirection and distraction because those are our two very best behavioral techniques that we can use with toddlers and again and even preschoolers. And again, it's not that we're changing the child's behavior, but do you know whose behavior we're really changing? It's us. We're providing that way or that method for them to move on so that we're not just being so punitive and taking away something that they like and that they want, and then the child is crushed because we have removed something that's really, really important to him without, again, giving him that replacement. So if you think about this in terms of redirection or terms of distraction, that helps a parent kind of understand what you're doing too. Now, I like trading. So when a child is really, really holding on to something that he wants, I try to give him something else in his little hand. But guys, just anything won't do. It's got to be something that's really, really got enough bang for the buck. A lot of times it's a snack item. Sometimes it's something like his sippy cup. And you've got to almost get it to the point or get it before it gets to the point that he just absolutely is going to, again, fall apart if you take it away from him. So try to get it at the very beginning so that you can head off some of this. So when you see him going for something that you know is going to be difficult for him to let go of, go ahead and get your item ready. Now, when I did a lot of home visits, I kept things in my pockets for this sort of thing. So especially if I were leaving a home and I knew that a child might want to keep one of my toys, or sometimes it doesn't even matter. It's not even something that they love. They're just so used to holding on to something. So for me, something like a birthday horn or a balloon or even a piece of candy that I could leave with the child or leave with the family. And again, that trade was good enough. He could let go of that item. He could be a little bit more flexible in his play because I was replacing that and giving him something else. Sometimes you need to go even bigger and give him two things. So you need to give him something for each hand to hold. And again, this works better than you think it will, but timing is so important. Don't wait until he's crying. Don't wait until he's, on the floor kicking and screaming and you just have to pry it from his little hands. Do it before it gets to that point. Sometimes what you can do, and this works really, really well for parents, is to move to a new location. So let's say their child is stuck on something like watching the big screen TV on their wall or on the iPad, and the parent just cannot get them away from that. And so you have to say, not only are you going to need to turn that off or get him interested in something else, a lot of times we have to move to a completely different location. So it might mean something like going outside on the porch. It might mean something like walking into the kitchen to get a snack. It might mean taking a bath if it's getting really, really bad, kind of heading it off with, again, a new location and a new activity that will replace that little fixation that he has gotten stuck on. Another thing that I like to do, and this is our fourth strategy, is introduce a gross motor activity. So even if I can't get the item out of their hands before we start the gross motor activity, once their little bodies are regulated and they are so excited and so engrossed in that new little routine that we're doing, then it's easier to remove the item. So something like scooping a child up and then throwing them in the air, or doing a chase game, or doing a tickle game, or doing a hiding game, where I'm not just playing peekaboo in a little way, I'm going for it and putting the whole blanket from the bed on the child so that there's just a big, big, big distraction so that he can move on from what he's gotten stuck on. So when this kind of thing happens routinely with parents, or let me just say, all toddlers really are prone to this because this just is the developmental phase that they're in. But our little friends with developmental delays seem to have a more difficult time with these transitions. And so we have to give parents some advice when this happens, particularly when it's disruptive to daily routines, meaning that, transitions take 30 minutes anytime a parent wants to move on to something else. So when this happens, I talk to parents about seriously putting that item away, at least temporarily, so that a child does have an opportunity to learn to do some other things like we talked about with the play routines, or can become interested in some other things, and not to the point where, again, they're in that object's grip and just can't let it go, but so that they have opportunities to think about other things and learn other things and get interested in other things. If a parent doesn't want to do that, I talk about then really, really limiting the time for the child to have access to that object so that there's a natural ending. So that if they want to use a toy like this, that they're going to be on a plane or take a ride in a car. So that when you get to the place, you've got that opportunity where the car riding is over. Now we're going to take this because now we're going into the store, or we're at grandma's, or we're at the sitters, or whatever you need to do. So short burst with their little items that they love, and then again, they know when they get there, they start to really realize this is what happens. This is the expectation. That item is going to go away. You could even do something like with a toy like this, just take the batteries out, or at least when the batteries run out, don't replace them. So then the child doesn't become, he's not as interested anymore because the batteries aren't in there and he's not seeing the item spin or the lights or whatever it is that he liked. But either way, remember, when we let a child get stuck like this, it's our job as the adult to help them find a way to move on. And I hope by using these strategies that's going to be more successful for you. All right, that's it for today. I'm Laura Mize, pediatric speech language pathologist, and thank you so much for joining me for TeachMeToTalk.com's Therapy Tip of the Week.